explain this? How do you explain this? I think there is a cachet about having an African-American president because of guilt. People don't hold guilt for a woman. I don't think there is a pent-up desire for a woman president. How do you explain that, Emily? She's saying that, you know, people voted for Barack Obama because they were guilty.
I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think there is still white guilt over and
they were still guilty 4 years later?
Absolutely, I think so, because he obviously didn't win on the merits. The economy, are you going to laugh, Don, or let me finish? The economy is a disaster, and it's the highest unemployment rate, even though it was jimmied in the end, that any president's been reelected. So, and he destroyed our healthcare system. So what merits was he elected? I think people want to give him a chance because he's black, and I think there is a lot of feelings because blacks
really
did not get
underestimating the American people. That's insulting to Americans who have brains and voted.
Well, Don,
yeah, well, you know what? Welcome back, folks. When I saw that on Friday, I think I might have been between commercial breaks or something, and I saw that. I said, please try to get Emily on the show. You got to get Emily Miller, senior opinion page editor for the Washington Times, because Emily, it only got worse, and I got the sound bites, and we're going to play them. I got to tell you, I am so sick of the way, especially Don Lemon has become, I guess, ever since he announced that he was gay. I see a correlation there, proximity in time. He's been elevated to this, I don't know what kind of status, and this was the latest. He treated you with total disrespect. Of course, this comes on the heels of him saying he was PO'd, shall we say, that the jury couldn't reach a verdict on manslaughter or murder one. He went on a rant there. I mean, I think it's out of hand. You were talking about Michelle Bachmann, who wrote a piece or was quoted as saying America's not ready for a female president, and then they took it to Obama, and you rightfully pointed out that a lot of people voted for Obama because he was black.
Well, and President Obama has said that people are giving me a lot of slack because I'm black. I mean, this is the president's own words. I don't know where Don. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. I mean, Don Lemon, this is not prime time. This is daytime TV. He's supposed to be a straight anchor. Between him and the guests, they're laughing. He's laughing so hard he's off camera. I mean, fake laughing, not genuinely humored by my comments. He talked over me. He was so rude. All that because he asked me. First, he asked me. Michelle Bachmann said to Cal Thomas. She said, I think a lot of people aren't ready for a female president. And the CNN people had taken it out of context. A lot of people took it out of context, I should say, that she said the country isn't ready for a woman president, and that's not what she said. So when I talked to Michelle Bachmann's spokesman, and he said, no, she said, I was in the room, she said, and you can look in the story, the column, she said a lot of people aren't ready. Obviously, she thinks she's ready because she ran for president. So when I corrected him at the beginning and said that's actually not what she said, you're taking it out of context, she absolutely believes the country's ready for a female president, as do I. But she said that there's not guilt over having never been a female president.
The way there was for not having a black president, right?
Exactly. And it's understandable because the civil rights movement was fairly recent in our history. It's a lot of people's lifetime, and slavery was a horrible situation where women have had the right to vote for a long time, didn't have separate schools, or had separate schools because we wanted it. And so it's just there isn't a lot of guilt for it. And
he laughed. You're right. He laughed at you. Now, Kelly Goff was on this show once and wrote us a scathing email that she wasn't treated fairly, blah, blah, blah. She'll never come on again. And then subsequently, weeks later, she wanted to come back on again. And I said, no, thank you. But from her, I'd expect it. But from the host, you don't expect it. And let's go to the next video here, cut 37. Well, do we have it?
I mean...
All right, guys, let's try one more time here before... All right, we don't have it, apparently, but nonetheless... we do have it. Here it goes.
I mean,
Here it goes.
Okay.
So here's what you're saying. Let me finish. Hold on,
Yes,
Kelly.
Don.
Here's what you're saying. Just be honest,
Yes.
right? That's
Yes,
what
that's
she's
what I'm
saying.
saying.
White guilt. So white people were guilty enough, felt guilty enough to vote for Barack Obama the first time. And then you're saying, in your estimation, her estimation, he did a terrible job. And they were so guilty that then they again voted for him. They were stupid enough, if they actually felt that way, to vote for him again.
I don't think it's
That's
stupid.
insulting
I think that
to Americans.
to the president. No, it's insulting to the president, but because I don't think he is qualified. I don't think he's a good president. I think Mitt Romney would have been a much better president. I think.
Okay, Emily.
All right, then I want to play the last one, too, because he laughed at you there. But this one is even the worst because the topic turned to George Zimmerman. You made a point about that trial not being about race. Here's the last one.
The fact that Trayvon Martin case had nothing to do with race, and yet it's become a race. Let me
that is disingenuous because you're saying that white people were guilty. Because, oh my God, it does not make sense. You're saying that he was elected because of white guilt, and then you're saying it has nothing to do with race. It does not make sense. And I got to go only for time.
Yeah, sure. I mean, how did you feel then?
I have to say, listening back right now, it's kind of pissing me off, to be frank. It was so rude. I mean, he is not supposed to be an opinion person. I'm not going on one of their, primetime shows. It's not Piers Morgan, supposedly. He was so rude. I'm a guest on his show. He was, laughed at me. He wouldn't let me speak. He talked over me. And then the two of them ganging up as if this was some sort of, I have to say, I wasn't, I'm sitting in a studio in Washington. I'm not looking at a monitor. I didn't even know who the other guest was. I didn't even know that she was black. So I had no idea where all this stuff was coming from. And then she suddenly says, well, this is like Trayvon Martin. I'm like, what in the world are they talking about?
Right.
What is it? And I've been on CNN plenty of times where they always go into Trayvon Martin, and I say to them, once again, look at the trial and the facts in the trial.
And listen to the jurors. The jurors a multiracial jury who said it had nothing to do with race, just like the shooting at the car, the loud music. The black jurors said it had nothing to do with race, but they don't want to buy that.
Exactly. And but they've perpetuate this perception in the public that the Trayvon Martin case had anything to do with race, even though Zimmerman couldn't see his face. When he calls 911, he says, I don't know, I guess he's black, he couldn't see him. And the case had nothing to do with a hate crime, except for Eric Holder has made it about this investigation of a hate crime, which is totally irrelevant. Point is, it had nothing to do with what the topic was on CNN on Friday. It was about Michelle Bachmann's comments that a lot of people aren't ready for a female president, but there's a lot of white guilt involved in electing Obama and re-electing Obama. And I'm sticking to that point. Obama says that. There's nothing funny about it. It's not an outrageous thing to say. I'm not some sort of crazy right-wing nut. This is a valid point.
No, let me tell you, Emily, as a Jew, I could tell you. The reason Jews vote Democratic overwhelmingly is because of some sense of, I don't know if it's guilt, but some kind of allegiance. And I think when it came to Obama, absolutely, there was a sense of some kind of guilt. Not that it's deserved or right, but I could speak for, I can't speak for the community, but that's my observation.
Right. Well, I think what it is that everybody knows that, and I think if I put Don Lemon on a lie detector test and said, do you think that most white people voted for Obama for his principles, his policies, and his plans, and his successes as president after the first term, or because they really wanted a black man to succeed, because they actually I don't think that's insulting to the American people. I actually think it's kind of generous to the American people that they really want to see blacks succeed. Blacks are 10% of the population, but yet we have this desire because of what's happened in history to put them in leadership positions, and hopefully they succeed. So giving them like affirmative action type,
But of course, Emily, if it's Tim Scott or Clarence Thomas or Condoleezza Rice or Michael Steele, then it's okay for someone like Don Lemon. Not that he has done it, not him specifically, but then it's okay for blacks or people who would champion other blacks to say, oh, well, he's not really black, or we should put an asterisk next to his name.
What they say often, they'll say about Tim Scott or Clarence Thomas is they're stupid. They'll say they're just a token.
Right.
They're not bright enough. They shouldn't be there. They're not qualified. If you're a conservative and you're black, you're stupid and a token. If you're liberal and a black, you're there purely for your qualifications.
Yeah.
How about we all just tell the truth that we know it is?
Well, Emily, listen, I applaud you. I applaud you for going on and fighting the good fight as you did. But like you said, you were at a complete disadvantage, but you held your own. I had no idea you couldn't see the other two. So that adds to my admiration for how you handled yourself. And thanks for coming on and talking about it.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Emily Miller, ladies and gentlemen, Washington Times, senior opinion page editor. Just an outrage. Just disgusting. It's so ridiculous. That makes no sense. On the Steve Malzberg Show.